Good morning. My name is Tyler Jacks. I'm the director of the Koch Institute for Integrative Cancer Research here at MIT, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the 18th annual Koch Institute Symposium. For the last 18 years, we've been organizing this event to highlight important, interesting, and emerging topics in cancer research. The Koch Institute is developed on the model of interdisciplinary cancer research, bringing various fields together to attack problems, long-standing problems in cancer. And therefore, the symposium tries to feature research at the interface. And I think this year is a perfect example of that, featuring computer science, math, machine learning, and cancer research. There's obviously been a tremendous increase in attention and accomplishment in this area over the last several years, thanks to the sort of huge volumes of data that are coming through from cancer researchers, whether they be molecular genetic data, genomic data, epidemiological data, pathological data, clinical trials data. And at the same time, in the fields of computer science, computational ability, and new methods to analyze and make sense of large data sets have emerged that hopefully, and as we're beginning to see, will allow us to make sense of those data and teach us the many important secrets of cancer and how we can more effectively control the disease. And that will be the subject of today's symposium, and I'm, for one, extremely excited about it. And I know from the number of pre-registrants we had for this conference that you are all as well. I want to thank some people who have made this possible. First, some organizations who've served as our sponsors this year. I'm going to name them, actually. Thermo Fisher Scientific, Bayer, Bristol Myers Squibb, Dragonfly Therapeutics, Skyhawk Therapeutics, Agilent Technologies, Alnylam Pharmaceuticals, Sanofi, Takeda Pharmaceuticals, Calico Life Sciences, and Cell Signaling Technology. Thanks to all of them, and please join me in a round of applause for This is an expensive activity. We charge a nominal fee to attend for the audience, and that's possible by virtue of the contributions of these organizations. We also have vendors who will be showing you their wares out in the lobby. Please pay attention to them, and we have other sponsors who have been listed on this slide too. I also want to thank three individuals who organized today's events: Regina Barzilay, Aviv Regev, and Phil Sharp, three colleagues of mine at MIT and the Koch Institute, and they've spent a lot of time thinking about the program, putting the program together, and again, I think you'll see how effective it will be over the course of the day. And I want to thank the speakers and the panelists as well for spending their time with us and sharing their insights and new advances over the course of the symposium. So without further ado, let's get underway. I'm going to start by introducing the first chair of the first session, and that's Phil Sharp, my colleague in the Koch Institute, Nobel laureate, and importantly, one of the voices who's most strongly pushed for the Koch Institute and MIT more broadly in bringing computer science and machine learning specifically into problems of biomedicine and into problems of cancer. Phil Sharp.
Thanks, Tyler. I couldn't help noticing I'm the bald white guy on the far end. It's a real honor to be here introducing what is a fabulous symposium. I'm really excited about the speakers and the panelists and the moderators who've agreed to join us. Machine learning in cancer is clearly part of a process that we've talked about here at MIT for over a decade, and as the convergence of computer science, physical science, and engineering science into cancer. And in the case of machine learning, this is a very embryonic, early engagement between a very sophisticated field of expertise and power with the problem, the very organic problem of cancer. And as it's shown here, we have three sessions today. One is a keynote, and there were three of those, and that's machine learning in cancer research. And then the second session is machine learning to decipher the cellular and molecular mechanisms in cancer. And then we have a panel. And then the third session is big data, computation, and the future of healthcare. These are all very large subjects in which we're hoping, and I think will, capture the cutting edge of cancer research. I particularly want to note that we have an outstanding panel that appears right after lunch, whose moderator will be Susan Hockfield. And we expect this to be a really exciting discussion of the issues around big data, cancer, and machine learning. Let's talk just for a moment, because we're here to do science and talk about science, about some of the big issues in this area. When you think about the types of data that can now be brought to medical care and specifically to cancer, it's an enormous set. We now have the human genome sequence. We're now beginning to sequence every cell in the human body and be able to define diseases and normal physiology at a single cell resolution. All of that is enormous data, of which we're probably extracting well less than 1% of the importance in it. And we're integrating this with genomic sequences as we understand how populations and individuals have genetic makeups that give or produce a risk to cancer. We have imaging, both MMR and CAT scan, that are getting more and more powerful and engaging imaging agents that make it possible to see things we've never seen before. We have pathology and blood assays, which are now able to detect thousands of components, organic molecules circulating in the blood, and to actually do pathology at a very high resolution, big data, big pictures, lots of data, all of which is very relevant to how we treat and care for a patient. And then we're getting medical records and increasing longevity of those medical records. And all of this has relevance to understanding the disease process, how it's best treated, how it's best not treated, and how to proceed to increase the efficiency of the healthcare system. This is important for many reasons. Two simple ones I'm going to comment on in this slide and the next. It's important to be able, for example, to diagnose the early stages of a disease. This particular slide is taken from Brian Wolpen, who'll talk this afternoon, and it shows the survival of patients when pancreatic cancer, a particularly lethal cancer and a difficult cancer to detect early, is diagnosed at stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you can detect pancreatic cancer, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg's pancreatic cancer was detected in stage 1 and 2, you have about a 50% or a little less chance of 5-year survival. If you detect pancreatic stage 3 or 4, a patient at that stage, you have less than a 5% 5-year survival. And 80% of pancreatic cancer is detected at stage 3 and 4. So we may be able to develop treatments that will prolong the survival of patients at that stage. But the transformation in this field will be detecting earlier stage pancreatic cancer. And that's true for most cancers, and it needs to be an increasing focus of our healthcare delivery system. The other issue why this is so important is shown here. Healthcare has to be re-engineered. We are now as shown in this graph, and this is from 1980 to 2010, it shows the increased cost of healthcare in contrast to the wage earning capacity of different sectors of our society. And that top dashed line, which shows a 2.5-fold increase from 1980 to 2010, is the increase in cost of healthcare. The dashed line just beneath it is the increase in purchasing power of the top 5% of our society. And it's clear those two lines are not going to be able to continue to diverge. The other lines there is the purchasing power increase of lower sectors of this society. So we're going to need to be more efficient if we're going to keep innovation in the healthcare system. Pharmaceuticals was 11% of the cost of healthcare in 2080, proprietary pharmaceuticals. It's the same now. So it's contributed to this increase. But hospitals have contributed to this increase. Hospital care, all sorts of other insurance and reimbursement, and numerous activities have contributed. We're going to need to re-engineer this healthcare system, and it's going to take technology to do it, and machine learning is going to be an essential part of that. In addition, it's going to be an essential part of how we understand the disease and ultimately treat the disease and develop new treatments for the disease. Now, this has been recognized across MIT because, as you know, MIT is establishing the Stephen A. Schwartzman College of Computing, AI, and Healthcare, which was a symposium held in this building a couple of months ago, announcing or celebrating the establishment of this college. The college is expanding faculty in MIT is expanding faculty in the College of the Schwartzman Center. It is committed to making connections to the various areas of MIT's activities, and this very much includes healthcare. And there is a stated commitment of MIT for $1 billion of support in this area over the next 10 years. It is an enormous commitment by this institute. It's an enormous commitment to society, and it's something that the healthcare community and the cancer research community must be a leader and part of. So I'm excited about today. I think we're looking at the future through the lens and the eyes of the leaders of the research community.